What's up, world? What's up, Zion? It's Prince Easy coming at you again, once more, as usual. I do have a couple slides that I want to share with you in this fine day that we're having, right? And of course, before we get to those slides, I want to issue a fair use disclaimer, right, for all the copywritten material that's going to be shared in this here video, right? So yeah, without further ado, let's dive into it, right? As we try to catch up and rather update ourselves pertaining to the madness unfolding out there, right? So, right, this is a good move, right? And from what I've observed, those drones that used to spray pesticides and stuff, yeah, those are the ones, they can do a lot of good work, as they are already doing here in Tanzania. I think we need more of them. Well, this is like a capitalism expression. This is a capitalistic expression, you know. Clean on the outside, but on the inside it's rotten. Yeah, because let's be honest, right? This I don't know, pursue for more processing power. It's not because of our usage, no, but rather the intelligence architecture that surrounds it demands it, right? And of course, why? Well, it's all because of idols, right? The AI. Some nations have given a robot a nationality. That is idolatry. What do I mean? Well, how does idolatry begin? Well, giving human attributes to objects. That's how it begins. Giving objects, inanimate objects, that's what they call them, right? Attributes of people. And then after that, gods. Okay, and that's exactly what they're doing, right? If all of these spying software were to be removed, most phones will remain usable for a really long time, and that's just the truth. That's just the facts, right? But again, the other aspect of this is the amount of resources, right? I think people need to like really quantify what they're actually doing. Okay, first let's talk about the resources used to create this fabricator here, right? And we are going to just have this conversation. Why? It's because we are avoiding the real conversation, right? That I just talked about earlier here, right? That this architecture that surrounds our devices is not to our advantage in any way, right? Facebook, what they are doing, right? They are so deep, right? In some handsets, you can't even remove Facebook, you know. You cannot uninstall it. That's how deep they are into the system, right? And they're doing this against our will, right? We, the buyers. But again, we're going back to that same concept we talked about a couple videos back, right? That we don't really own. We are renting these things, and that's how they view it. Right now, they're just being more upfront with it, right? So the resources used to build this infrastructure here is insane. The amount of metal deployed is insane. The amount of water that is being used is insane. It is literally taxing to nature, and we have to take the reins. That's just what it is, or else everything is going to be destroyed, right? They're just saying data centers, and I don't think people actually analyze what it takes to actually build and run these infrastructures. Right now and then it comes up, electric bills or water bills or absence of water, right? But that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's insane, and it's not being built to our advantage, and yet it is taxing our generations to come and ask, right? So the question is, what are we gonna do about it? What needs to be fought is not this building, but rather the purpose that these buildings are built for, right? And people are waking up. People are, right? People are not that attached to AI. They are not so, I don't know, mesmerized by it, and it's a good thing, right? It's a good thing, and that reflects into their sales of these services in terms of subscriptions, of course, right? Their sales are tanking, and yet they are projecting big profits for themselves. Who's gonna cover the losses when they come? Well, that's another question. We done had a conversation about that, right? So yeah, congratulations to us, I guess. Yeah, the squeeze is being felt, and by what Trump is planning to do with the Zionists, it's gonna get worse. Negotiate. So does it take one person to negotiate, or are they using the wrong word here? I'm confused, because it takes more than one to negotiate, right? So who was taking too long? I don't know. Were they lacking in response or what? But hey, right? They cannot be serious, these people, huh? Well, right? Trying to clean up the image, right? Trying to clean up the image, right? So they need proof, they say. This bold serpent here. Don't do it. Just information. Well, again, like I'm saying, these are things that have been going on. Okay, they have been going on, but now they deem themselves untouchable, so they can be outright and upfront, right? Because the Christians are not going to wake up, right? The evangelicals are not going to wake up. The masses are not going to wake up and do anything. So they can say just upright, right? That we're going to start kidnapping for leverage. Okay, we shall see. Things are already out of hand. Okay, they're already out of hand. Now I don't know what you're waiting for, but hey, maybe you are talking about your country. The World Cup has begun. Well, the Epstein case is back. That's about the island. Ukraine wants an island. The Kushners want an island. Tanganyika and Zanzibar, somebody wants an island. Are we catching on, or are we slow? And I think they were warned against doing this. And of course, Ukraine expects the Europeans to come fight. Well, they are not. This is how they fight, right? And the problem with this form of fighting is that these so-called sanctions can only be effective if they are also adapted outside of Europe. And I don't know how that's gonna go, right? But that's where it's headed. They're gonna try to force countries to adapt to these sanctions to isolate Russia, because the failure of that would mean their isolation. Which is happening fast. Them and America, happening really fast. So, yeah, who's gonna stand with them? Everybody has a choice. What are they fighting for? Is it justified from your point of view? You pick and choose, because again, the consequences are real. Okay? The consequences are real. Okay? He must have laid off the cocaine a little bit, and now he's talking more openly, right? But the only things the Europeans are willing to do without sabotaging themselves, right? Because there's no honor among thieves. They're gonna give you weapons of all kinds, right? The Flamingo, which you now call the Ukrainian weapon. And of course, they are even willing to go as far as to deport male Ukrainians from their territories. That's how far they're willing to go, but they're not gonna fight. Right? I'm hearing things that, Armenia is being prepared for war, and all of these states that are near Russia are being prepared for war and stuff, right? Well, it is what it is. And like I said, free will. You reap what you sow, right? And what are the Europeans sowing right now? That's the question that you need to ask. What are the Americans sowing right now? Because that will determine what they're gonna reap. And is it beneficial to all or anything like that? But hey, that is Zelensky. Cannot be a mediator in the Russian-Ukraine conflict. Well, that leaves who? America? America can neither, right? They just cleared the sale of weapons to you. So we are confused here. Well, brothers and sisters, that's it. You tell me the tempo. Right? You tell me the tempo of the world right now. As for all the things that I've done showed you, right? And what is troubling the world right now? Right? So yeah, I hope you see it for what it is, because you cannot fight a war that you don't know your enemy or who they are, right? So yeah, I'm gonna put a pin on it right there, and we're gonna hear from each other when we hear from each other. Prince Easy signing out. Love you. Bye.